You're listening to Find the Good News, Episode 22, The Call to Care, featuring Jody Farnum. This episode of Find the Good News is sponsored by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. Check out our work at parkerbrandup.com. Would you like to help make sure I'm asking my guests the really good questions? Just visit findthegood.news and click the Questions tab. I'll see if I can get your question dropped in the fishbowl. Each episode, my guests will dive deep, select 3 random questions, and if yours is selected, I'll ask it on the show. That's findthegood.news. I've always found it hard to ignore the suffering and strife of my fellow man. And during the times in my life when I actually could stiffen my neck and avert my eyes, I've been filled with something that I can only call shame. I've been guilty of looking around the world, seeing people in difficult times, and like many I've said, somebody should do something about that, only to continue about the business of me. As it turns out, people are doing something, and they've been doing it in my hometown, Sulphur, Louisiana, for over 35 years. Jody Farnum, the director of Care Help in Sulphur, came to visit with me on Find the Good News and expanded my understanding of the extent to which Care Help serves individuals and families right here at home. To say my mind was blown would be putting it mildly. Care Help is serving the less fortunate of Sulphur in a capacity that is really hard to comprehend, especially considering the modest location where they operate. To the average passerby, Care Help might appear to be a simple thrift store that rejuvenates, repairs, and resells donated goods to the public. What you find out if you push through the surface a bit further is that the funds received from those sales are transformed into care and help in the form of food, services, and resources for a growing number of needy right here in our area. Sometimes the difference between stability and despair is a matter of luck. Many of us, the lucky ones, don't know what it's like to be in dire straits, to really be at the mercy of human kindness and compassion. We know where our next meal is coming from. We can pay our bills, we have our health, our jobs are secure, we have friends, family, loved ones, neighbors, and co-workers that have helped us along the way, that care about us and would assist us in our hour of need. For some, that security, that safety net, simply does not exist, and that is where the loving labor of Care Help in Sulphur gets engaged. Jody is no stranger to struggles. She has been on the outside looking in. She's climbed peaks and fallen into valleys. Her experiences have given her eyes free of judgment, allowing her to look on her neighbors with love, and the vision to lead the altruistic employees and volunteers that she surrounds herself with. She told me that if you look, if you're paying attention, then Christ will appear in your life every single day. For Jody, he often walks through the doors of Care Help in Sulphur, needing food, clothes, or things to make his shelter, his life, a little more comfortable, a little more bearable. Care Help in Sulphur doesn't turn people away. Care Help in Sulphur turns the disregarded and leftovers into blessings, and the people they help often return the kindness by coming back to Care Help to serve others. Good news looks different to each of us, depending on our lot in life. For many people in Sulphur, Louisiana, good news looks like Jody Farnum and a little facility called Care Help.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran, and I'm going to find the good.
and I love you just as well.
Strangely enough, I get a lot of people who come through this door odd, just for no reason. They don't know what they're looking for, and I've always hated that I didn't like have a list of like, okay, here's ways that you can get some help.
Right.
And now with this show, that bugged me for a long time, because other than just straight up going, well, come stay at my house.
Right.
Which, I mean,
it's still that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. I mean, you're still having to get people who are going to have, somebody's going to have to do it. And so, you know, I've always kind of had that itch. Like, okay, I know there's a network of organizations
There's
and people out
somebody
there
doing something.
Yeah, and these people need that, and I felt honestly ashamed that I didn't.
But you know, there's still not a place. There's
No.
still not a homeless shelter. There's just, and it's just bigger than what we think it is. I mean,
Sure.
You know, that's what everybody tells Kelly. You know, why don't you just use your church? Well, because
You'd be
you
full.
can't just use the church too.
Yeah.
What Room at the End does is amazing, though.
See, I don't know. All I know is what I read on their website, and then I went to a baptism at Christ the King. Is that what it's called? Christ the King on Oak Park. And so they talked about it there, but it wasn't like comprehensive, so I didn't get a good picture.
Right.
But a lot of the information I have to go online and just ask people about.
Yeah.
So yeah, ultimately I've been thinking about this, and I know this is probably duplication. Somebody out there's probably done it, but I'm thinking eventually, maybe this year, after we get a handle on what's happening with this show, I may devote a portion of the website to all of these services and nonprofits.
Services.
That way there's like a page that just, it seems like something's in one, like, you know, river there.
Right.
And that way some folks can go, okay, well, look, I have this need and that need and this need, and I don't know where to start. At least they can
kind of put the pieces together.
Yeah. I mean, it would help. It's helping me. I mean, even like there's some guys who come through here selling banana bread.
Right.
And, you know, I've met people that I'm going, okay, this guy's on the street, but this is more than just homelessness. He's got a drug problem.
Right.
They'll come get them and give them. I mean, now granted, they got to go through the program,
That's
but I'm
right.
going, if it's an immediate need and this person's a life or death.
If you really want to change,
right,
you're going to get in the vehicle and go with them.
And most of these guys, when they come through here, I've had 3 or 4. We just visit, and the stories they tell are end of your rope stories. I mean, every one of them.
It's true.
Know, end
Is so true.
last. This is it. Or sometimes could have been their last night on Earth. You know, and these guys show up, and I don't know. I'm a believer in that. I was reading some old notes the other night, and I had something I had wrote in meditation one day, and I was like, you know, Jesus shows up how he needs to show up. It's easy for us to try to make him a way, you know?
Right.
And sort of define that. But so often the stories that really touch us are the times where we just can't comprehend it. We're like, okay, this is just against all odds.
And then when you look back, you're like, that was a God moment.
Yeah. Well, look, we're already doing the show.
I know it, right?
So Tom has been recommending that I get in touch with you, but I told him, I said, well, I've already actually been in a dialogue, and but I know that it was right before y'all really, it seems like was y'all's busy season, if we call it that. But I'm just going to tell you what I know of Care Help, and I want you to help me fill in the gaps, because I don't think I know a lot. I'm starting to learn that I don't know anything. You know, Care Help, as far as I know, has been around since I was a kid, and I'm 44 years old.
35 years.
35? Okay. So, I mean, my first awareness would have been, I guess, when I was 10 or 11 years old, something like that. And a very simplistic term, I mean, as a kid, I thought, well, Care Help is like the Salvation Army. That was my very boiling it down, don't know anything. And then I'll tell you, when my next awareness comes many, many, many years later, I went through a divorce, and I didn't take anything with me. I, had my clothes and some of my kids' stuff, but I didn't really have anything. Didn't have a great job. Struggling to find a place to live, but I did find something that I could afford with 2 kids, and, no furniture, no pots and pans. I mean, the basics. And the way I described it to somebody back then was, imagine that your house caught on fire and you could take your dresser. so that was sort of what that felt like. And so starting over was kind of difficult. So during that time period, there was like this sort of 6 to 8 week time period where every necessity of life was needed, and I had very little to do it on. And so Care Help was a huge help to me because I was able to put together a life, things to cook with, things for the bathroom, things to sit on, things to eat on, table, chairs, get some garage sailing too, because there were some things I couldn't find. But for me, that was a big eye opener and an awareness that, hey, this is a value for a person in a bind. And maybe people that aren't necessarily in a bind, but for me, I was I'd call it a mild bind. I mean, I wasn't homeless like we were just talking about, but I wasn't in a great situation. So anyway, I guess fast forward to today, and I'm not in that same situation, but I know there are people who are, and I mean that's the spectrum between what I just described, and I'm sure rock bottom. You probably see everything come through the doors, right?
Everything. So when you went, you paid for your stuff?
Yeah, I paid.
So we actually have people who come who can't pay.
Okay.
So, we're 2 things. We're 2 entities. We're Care Help, but we're an assistance office and we're a thrift store.
Okay. What do you mean an assistance office?
So we have the largest food pantry on the west side of the Calcasieu River.
Okay.
So really, 35 years ago, a group of men saw there was a need in this community 35 years ago. And they opened this little bitty building on City Service Highway. I couldn't even tell you their names right now.
Okay.
So they started collecting food, and they would go, I think they called them the Mafia 5.
Really?
And they would put food on maybe low income or single moms' doorsteps.
So they just knew. They knew where the need was.
Well,
at.
there were businessmen, there was churches. They went to church, and so they just knew there was a need. So that's kind of how it started.
Wow.
And then it kind of kept growing. They started going to their churches saying, okay, now we need shoes, we need clothes, we need this. And the bigger it got, they realized they also needed an income. They needed to help pay electricity bills, or maybe they needed to pay a mortgage.
Sure.
Back then, to help some of these hurting people. So that's how Care Help began. So they started collecting shoes and clothes and pots and pans, and it just kept growing. So this thrift store emerged.
Okay.
And it would help those in need, but then they needed to generate funds, so they started also selling to the public.
Okay. So that's where the transition happens.
That's where the transition came.
Okay.
So one can't operate without the other. The thrift store is gently used items that are donated to us from our community, Calcasieu Parish.
Sure.
We turn around, we cull through those clothes and clean it up, spruce it up, throw it away if it's broke, if it doesn't work.
I'm sure y'all get a lot of that type of stuff.
We salvage clothes, if it's a lot of cat hair or whatever, we don't have the facility to wash and dry it. And then we sell it.
Gotcha.
And as we sell those items, that's what helps us buy food, meat, eggs, milk, cheese, whatever we need.
So y'all have perishable items?
We have perishable items.
Really?
We have a huge walk-in freezer. We have a walk-in cooler, which we just recently purchased. We used to live out of chest freezers, like 12 of them.
Really?
Yeah, if electricity went out, we were in trouble.
Yeah.
So now we have a walk-in freezer, and it's ran on a generator. So if electricity goes out, we're not going to lose our food.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know any of that.
Yep.
I wrote a few things down before us meeting today, and one of them was food related, because that one that was a little bit of a question mark for me, because I went on y'all's Facebook page and I noticed that a few times I saw food deliveries, and I thought, okay, I guess I don't fully understand.
I think so I've been director for 5.5 years.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so So I'm more into the social media, and like we need to let the public be more aware of what Care Help is.
Yeah.
So used to it was very real volunteer driven, and as we get older, our volunteers are older, and
Sure.
there's not a new generation of volunteers coming up. So not many people remember about what Care Help's all about.
I see.
They think we're a thrift store.
Gotcha.
So we don't exploit our clients, but it's good to tell their stories.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know that there's a need in our community, how do you know to help?
Right.
So that's how Care Help really came about. The churches all came together 35 years ago. All the churches in the Sulphur, Corliss area, and said, "Hey, this will be the hub. Care Help will be the hub. So when somebody knocks on our door for help,
You know where.
we'll send them to Care Help."
That's really smart. And I'm not aware, if maybe I'm wrong, but do other nonprofits function that way, like as a hub?
Not in our area. I
Yeah.
think more so it's gotten a little more wide known. With social media, smartphones, there's more communication.
Sure.
35 years ago, you had to pick up a telephone. But that's still how some of the churches operate. They'll send you to Care Help first.
Yeah.
If we can't help you, we call the church calls us. Okay, why can't you help this person? And there may be other reasons why, or they don't really qualify.
I gotcha.
So maybe the church might say, "Hey, well, we can do half. Maybe Care Help can do the other half." That's how we help pay rent, pay somebody's
Yeah.
electricity bill. So the thrift store generates funds, and we take those funds and we put them back into our community through those who need help. So not only are we a food pantry, we also pay rent, we pay electricity, we pay gas, we pay water, we also pay gasoline, we pay for TWIC cards.
So you're helping
medical.
people find jobs then in that
Yes.
regard. I mean, helping them become self-sustainable.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yep.
I mean, I had no idea. In just less than 10 minutes.
If you walk in our thrift store, you would have no idea. We moved our food pantry, our assistant's office, 2 years ago.
Okay.
So it's not even on our property anymore. It's at another piece of property.
I see.
Just 2 blocks south of us.
Yeah, because I've drove by that building.
Yep.
I believe it's on the same street as ASAP Glass,
That's
right?
right
That's
next door.
Good friend of mine.
That's
yeah.
right next door. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Well, see, I was going to go by and meet you one day, and I went there, and I went, no, wait a second.
So that's our assistant's office.
Okay.
Because it got so big. So I've been director 5.5 years. When I first became director, now I used to volunteer there, and I used to be an employee there 10, 12 years ago.
Really?
I worked in the donation room.
Really?
I took in the donations. I never knew I was going to be the director one day. So what happened is just in 5.5 years, with the explosion of work here, we also have a lot more hungry people here. People load up in their car and come here, and then they can't afford rent, and they can't find a job, and they're hungry.
Yeah.
They need shelter. They just need some sense of direction. They might need a bus ticket to get home. Their car broke down. So we assist over 500 households.
In Sulphur,
month.
Carlos. I mean, how does that?
Yes.
Is that everything west of the river? I mean, do you assist anybody?
So we don't turn anybody away for food
Okay.
the first time. After that, we try to tell you, okay, if you're in Westlake or Moss Bluff, this is where you go for food.
Oh, okay.
If you're
Direct
in
them to-
Benton, this is where you're going to go for food, So this is strictly Sulphur and Carlos, and it's 525 households a month that we assist.
I said the word ashamed earlier, and I actually think that's probably accurate because, like I said, I don't know how to tell you how many people I've visited with in here that have been in situations that I now know I could have directed them towards assistance. I mean, I was talking about this with somebody else on the show. I said, the most assistance I can give sometimes is some sort of small temporary monetary relief, and then ears. Sometimes it's just listening and finding out that that's another poverty, that people aren't paid attention to.
People don't listen.
No,
That's
we don't
right.
listen to people. We kind of, when someone's in a jam and we don't know them, it's just become less of our inclination to immediately go, how can I help you?
That's right.
It's easy to go, well, that's your problem, not mine, and half listen and can't wait for it to end and then bye. And I've tried to break that cycle in myself, and as in trying to break it, I see it more. Now I wish I'd have known because I'm running through the list in my head, and I wonder how many. I guess that's a question I really wanted to ask you too. Is I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to adjust the air condition and I'm going to sleep with my kids in their bed and it's going to be all peaceful and open the fridge and eat. I'm not going to struggle to get any of those things. In doing that for too long, I think it sometimes creates like an apathy or maybe an illusion that everybody's fine. And so I wonder if you could just paint a picture for me and maybe whoever's listening to the show, like what you really see. Because it can't be that illusion, surely.
There's so many stories. There really is. There's so many stories. I'm just going to give you a story from today.
Okay. Today. Yesterday I got a phone call right at closing time. Somebody needed some immediate assistance. They needed something to sleep on. And I'm like, well, look, we're already closed. Just come tomorrow. I need a driver's license. We just need proof of who you are and that you live here. And they had just gotten out of jail. So they've been incarcerated. Right.
So they're automatically qualified, So we're like, okay, get them first thing in the morning. Get them to our assistant's office. So people who have been incarcerated have a stigma. Everybody, they've been in jail.
Sure.
And, if they wouldn't have committed the crime. And
sure.
But everybody deserves a second chance. They need a third chance, a fourth chance. Who are we?
I mean, yeah, I'm assuming, I hate to jump in. Are you a Christian?
Absolutely.
Well, then, that to me, the minute I say that, I have to assume that I'm going to have to look at the person that's outside of myself and say 1 chance, 2 chance, 3 chance, 4 chance, and just keep going because I am asking for the same thing.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail you, but I mean, I'm hearing deep Christian ideology right
because
there.
That's how it's supposed to be. So he thinks he's coming for a couch. He was going to live in a shed. So if he listens to the program, he knows who I'm talking about. But he came to visit with me. We gave him a couch, and the more we talked, we realized he needed a little bit more help.
Yeah, he was just asking for one thing, but there's
just something to sleep on.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, if you don't ask, you don't receive. You just got to ask. So microwave, a rug, because the cement floor is cold. He already had a heater, didn't need a heater. Got some food from our food pantry. I said, okay, well, you got an ice box? Got an ice box. Do you have a way to cook it? Well, I have a microwave. Well, you can't cook meat in a microwave. So because of donations, so we found the electric skillet. We had a hot plate. We had the utensils. Sort of like your situation. You paid for yours, but he got his for free.
Yeah, and see, you're actually touching on something that, again, it gets very deeply Christian to me. And I might be wrong about the way I frame it, but it's the kind of Christianity that I have always been attracted to. And it's just what you just said. So you said, I paid for mine, he got his for free. In our world today, what I have seen happen is people say that same thing you just said, and they'll say, well, I paid for mine. Why does he get his for free? I followed the law, and I'm not in that situation. Why do I got to pay for mine, and he gets his for free? And so that's a whole different tone. And the way you just said it, when you said it, I felt zero unfairness.
Right.
I didn't feel like it was unfair. Yeah, I paid for mine. He got his for free.
Right.
Okay. Now, that to me is where Christianity starts moving into a whole nother level. I think we can. I tend to see it get intermingled with society's justice and society's laws, and then we sort of shove our Christianity into that, and then we call it Christianity. But a lot of times it shakes out totally differently.
That's right.
It shakes away from all of the standards that we've kind of set.
That's right.
Of fairness and justice.
Well, some people come to Care Help and they feel entitled. This was given to you, so why can't you give it to me?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
and it's right. The checks and balances.
What
I got you.
happens is it does. It can rub anybody wrong.
Well, sure, we're people, yeah.
Well, that was given to you. Why can't you just give it to me? Well, first of all, I need to make sure that there's a difference between a need and a want. Mm-hmm. And all this person asked for was a couch.
Yeah.
And he ain't a little person.
Sure.
You know, I'm like, well, let's see, we have a hideaway bed. We didn't. So, you know, he ended up leaving with more than what he came seeking. Mm-hmm. But not just in material neither, because we got to sit down and I really got to share with him that the only way to make better choices is to make sure that Jesus is on your side. You got to, because if you don't, you're not going to keep making the best choices. You're just not. You're not. And he's coming back Monday, you know, until maybe he goes to work. Maybe he'll keep coming here. Surround yourself around good people, positive people, people who's been where you've been.
Yeah. That helps a lot. That seems to be a recurring theme in the conversations I've had with this show is reaching out through your own pain or through your own experiences or hardships or whatever that is. Somehow those things are creating the blessing for somebody else. And, you know, you don't want to look around and say, well, life's a bunch of hardship, but facts are facts. I mean, there's a lot of hardship in the world.
Sure.
And when you've been through something somebody else is going through, you hope that it's created empathy and compassion in you to look at them and
to really see them.
Yeah.
See past the tattoos.
Yeah.
You know, or the dirty clothes, you know,
yeah.
or where you give somebody a ride and they smell so bad, you almost have to hang your head out the window.
Yeah.
But you know, you see them. You're
Sure.
listening to them. You want to hear them. So we don't just hand out a food box. We're not just paying a bill. We want to know, why are you in the situation and what can we do to help? So if you come to Care Help and you volunteer, you start meeting employees who have been in that situation, who ended up getting hired. They come to work for us, or they do go somewhere else and work, but they come back and they say, you fed me when I was hungry. You know, you clothed me when I needed clothes, or you visited me when I was in jail. So Care Help just really, for 35 years, that's what they've strived to do.
I think it's fascinating to hear that no one really knows who started it, though. I mean, whenever I started reading all the board minutes, I just couldn't sit here and tell you. Oh, right.
All
Yeah.
those
It's not like in the
names.
public, you know.
Yeah. Now, I've spoke at churches where, you know, older women in their 70s would say, my brother's uncle was one of the first ones to help with this. I can remember when I was a kid, a spokesperson for Care Help would come all the way to Moss Bluff to my little church and say, we need for you to collect shoes. You know, and that little church in Moss Bluff still supports Care Help to this day. And I smile at that. I think, wow, you know, they're still supporting Care Help since I was a little kid. And here I am, grown, married, and living Sulphur for the last 30 years, and they're still supporting Care Help.
Yeah. I mean, I can't help but think, like I said, about that little period of time in my life where it was an incredible asset. And just to know it was there, I mean, if it wouldn't have been there, I would have had a harder time. I mean,
and some people don't realize that they can come shop at Care Help. You don't have to be poor. We need rich people to come shop at Care Help.
Oh, I go shop there sometimes too. Yeah, like I said, I really didn't know beyond the thrift store,
right,
all the other ways it was reaching out.
And people don't. And you know, sometimes we think that's a bad thing because they don't really know. So we try to share about the food deliveries, how many people we help a month, on our Facebook page, just to let them know, hey, this is what your money or your donations do. They're really helping somebody in your community.
Yeah.
You know, I've had board members ask me, well, where's the homeless? You know, where are the homeless? Well, some of our homeless in Sulphur actually aren't just living on the streets. They're living pillar to post.
Right.
They go to one house to the next house to the next house.
Right. You're right. That's actually a good description of some of the folks I've visited with in here, and little families, you know, with 2 kids, a wife and a husband, and I mean, just fell on hard times. I always say it's like a perpetual banana slip. You slip on a peel and you never catch your footing again. It just seems like it's
That's
one
right.
thing after the other.
Well, so many people live one paycheck away from homelessness. Mm-hmm. Every week we see it.
Yeah. I mean, this family here that I visited with, they weren't from here, but Maybe stop by if you, in fact, he comes by. If I'm not here, leave me a note. One of his notes is hanging behind me back here because we have wonderful conversations. He loves his children. He's trying to make the best out of a bad situation. But, like you said, sleeping in sheds sometimes,
Yep.
or, they can stay in a house for a month with a friend, but then then maybe they'll be in a hotel for a week. And it's just, I think there's just this assumption right off the bat with people like that is that, well, they must be doing something wrong. And as I've visited with this individual over the last 6 or 7 months, what I've come to discover is it's all just luck of the draw. His life situation was different than mine. We're roughly the same age, but it was just the parents he was born to and whatever they did in those circumstances. He's sort of, I hate to say a victim, and I don't mean like...
It's a poverty mentality for some people,
Yeah.
And it's hard to break that cycle. It really is hard.
And I'm happy, I know it.
You've probably heard me mention filming videos, building websites, creating logos, or building brands on this podcast. Well, there's a good reason for that. I'm a brand builder, and my brand is Parker Brand Creative Services. My team and I have built countless brands in the Gulf Coast region, and a lot of our work in the travel and tourism industry is experienced across the country and honestly the whole world. We have our specialties: web, logo, package, and whole brand design, as well as video production and photography. But the reality is we function as a full-service advertising agency to businesses that don't really mesh well with larger advertising agencies or just don't want to have in-house creative departments. But don't listen to what I say. Just go to our website, parkerbrandup.com, and take a look at what we do. We're a show it, don't say it team. Okay, you should definitely say it too, but you know what I mean. That's parkerbrandup.com. We think sideways, we push forward, and we'll get your brand up.
So take this, you've earned it, a melody in chorus.
I'm blessed too. I don't live on the street. I'm not hungry. I'm not food insecure.
Yeah.
When we're feeding 525 households, that's not people. These are homes that we're feeding. That's a lot of people for our community.
Yeah, it really is. I'm actually surprised to hear that.
That's a lot of people.
That's a whole lot.
And that's from single parents all the way up to our elderly. We assist a lot of elderly. We probably have 150, a good 150 elderly people that we assist. And we consider elderly 62 and older.
Okay.
And we assist them at Christmas time because there's just so many different factors that Care Help does all year long. We're not just a thrift store and just a food pantry and assistance office, but we have Christmas. We have Backpack Blessings. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask you about that. What? Because I wrote down school assistance or back to school assistance.
So there's school assistance. So like we just got done with Christmas. So it's January. So right now we're kind of taking a breather and we're just trying to catch up on all the donations. Kids are out of school. Kids got Christmas. So now we're being swamped with donations. And if you pull up at Care Help in the back, you're going to think, why am I even dropping off here? Because there's just so much. We're so blessed. And we're trying to go through it. So January, February, all the way to May is just catch-up time. May, we start getting ready for school. School's getting out. We're getting ready for school.
Gotcha. Y'all are working ahead.
We're working ahead. So we start ordering our shoe cards. So we normally assist about 300 students every school year with a $40 gift card, a brand new backpack, and school supplies.
Wow.
We used to try to buy all the school supplies. It's just crazy right now. Every teacher wants something different, every grade, every school. So now we just do a generic backpack with school supplies, pencils, pens, paper, so many binders, erasers, colors, glues, scissors, but each child gets a $40 gift card to the shoe department to buy new shoes.
Really? Where does that come from?
That comes from the sales of our thrift store.
Wow.
Yeah. Or from donations. We might have the public sector, the churches, the industries. Somebody might send us a nice little check towards school.
Yeah.
Back to school. But the majority of our funding is from the thrift store.
So how does what's the process for that? How do you determine what children receive these backpacks?
So, we actually go by the poverty level,
Okay.
or if you receive food stamps.
Gotcha.
If you get a disability check, or if you just got laid off, or you single mom. Being a single mom, you know how expensive it is to put kids in school.
Oh, yeah.
You got your school uniforms. What kid doesn't deserve a new pair of shoes? Because that's their identity now. Those shoes are their identity. A new pair of shoes, the school supplies. So it gets expensive.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up about shoes. It makes me think of my father. When I was in junior high or high school, my dad took us to Mexico, right across the border. That was back before things were like they are now. We'd crossed over at Laredo, and he had pointed out to us, he had told us to wear old shoes. And I thought that was odd. And then later on, he told us, he said, well, they will gauge your wealth based on your shoes, the quality of your shoes. And he said, if you look around, and it was really poverty stricken where we went.
Right.
I really don't know why we went there, except for just shopping. I don't know, across the border shopping. But yeah, it was an eye opener for me just to see how other people live, and really that things can be pretty bad. But yeah, shoes were a status symbol.
And that's a big deal with kids.
I never really thought of it that way.
That's a big
until
deal.
then.
That's a big deal. So that's our back to school. And you got Dewana's closet with Dewana Tarver. So this next school year might be a little different for us. We might do a little different with the school supplies. Maybe supply the supplies to the school.
I see.
Still do the gift cards and the backpack, but not so much the supplies. Get
Gotcha.
those to the schools. So what happened is a school had approached Care Help probably about 8 years ago about hunger in school.
Okay.
And it started something called Backpack Blessing. And what that is we take non-perishable food, individual serving sizes, Jiffy to go, Pop-Tarts, Vienna sausage, crackers, chips, juice,
Like just little fruit snacks, things that are individually packed, and
beef jerky.
okay.
And we make a bag for Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
And these bags, the school would call us and say, I need 80 bags. I have 80 students at this school who we feel face food insecurity on the weekend.
Wow.
So can you guess how many bags we do a week?
I cannot even imagine.
So if we're doing 525 households a month,
Oh, come on.
so we're doing 253 bags a week.
What?
Yes.
Every week?
Every week.
And this is all during the school year?
This is completely during the school year. When school's out, we don't do it anymore, but the feeding program picks up. And they normally feed either at Henning or at EK Key. So that all kids up to the age, I think, of 17 are given a free meal Monday through Friday. Yep, 253. And we don't pick the kids.
The school does.
The teachers call us.
Because they're aware. They're
That's
picking
right,
up
they're
more.
aware.
Sure, my sister's a teacher, and she's kind of shared some stories like that, where she said, it just kind of breaks your heart as a educator, because the children become like your children, but you know that you're sending them off, and a lot of them are going home to situations that are pretty bad.
That's right.
And it, and there's not a whole lot you can do, but that is one way.
Yep.
That they can help. I didn't know what that was.
So we call that Backpack Blessings every Friday.
So y'all deliver that to the schools?
We deliver to the
up?
schools. We deliver it to the schools. And sometimes it stresses us pretty thin.
Sure.
Delivering we have one school that gets 80 bags. We have one school that gets like 36 bags. So, and it varies. Now it will jump when school starts back. So
Really?
We'll deliver next Friday, and probably the next week the teachers will be calling to add more bags.
That's wild.
We normally see more kids, maybe parents are spending money that they shouldn't be spending for Christmas. With what we do, we try to figure out, okay, why?
Yeah, why is it moved?
Why?
Yeah.
But another thing, too, is people move at Christmas time. People who struggle to pay rent, and rent right now is pretty high.
Yeah.
So they may get up and leave in the middle of the night one place and move to a different part of town, so their kid changes the school. So there's a good chance that could be what happens too, because we'll see where one school will drop and then the other school will pick up.
Interesting. So that's what's happening. You're seeing sort of a migration from one school to
Yep.
the other.
And we always know the food numbers are going to pick up after Christmas.
How are y'all doing all of this? I mean, how many people work at Care Help?
So we only have 15 employees.
50 or 15?
15, 5.
Wow.
15 employees.
Holy cow.
So we really rely on a lot of the volunteers. Used to, we probably had 150, 200 volunteers. And we still probably have 125 volunteer base. But your dedicated volunteers, I would say, are just a handful.
So this is a good question because it's something that I've been curious about. How's your volunteering structured? Do you have like set dates that you do things and you say?
Our volunteers, we always tell them you can come anytime you want.
Okay.
As long as we're open. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturdays, 8 to 4. If we could do a night shift, we probably would because we could use it.
Yeah.
And so we let our volunteers pick what they want to work. And we're just thankful for it.
Is there a hole, though? Do you have a need like that you go, we really could use more volunteers for one specific thing?
So, what I realized, too, is a lot of people want to volunteer, but they want to see who they're helping.
They want to, I got you.
So they want to be where they're comforting or hugging or,
Sure.
helping the people who are actually coming in for the assistance. And they don't realize that when you cull clothes or tag clothes or put canned goods on a shelf, or deliver those 250 bags to the schools that just right here in our community, 250 bags, you're actually helping somebody.
Yeah.
You may not see who you're helping, but you're helping. So that we see that as a problem sometimes. So we're hoping for 2019, we're going to open our food pantry up more. In other words, we're going to try to get people on a volunteer basis to come in and work our food pantry. Used to, when you came in for food, we gave you a box of food.
And it was predetermined what was in
predetermined. Whatever we had. It was whatever we had. If we had it, we made many boxes. And the people would go home with this box. It was about 75 pounds of food, 10 pounds of frozen meat, chicken, beef, whatever we had. We didn't know what we were going to get. It's just whatever we had. Or we bought the poultry from the poultry place.
Gotcha.
2 years ago, we decided to do something called Client's Choice. So we moved to the new building. We set up shelving and we set up a grocery store.
Okay.
Now it's not a big grocery store, but so we try to keep certain staples on the shelves, certain canned items, mashed potatoes, corn, and now our clients come in and they choose their food.
Gotcha.
So there's no waste.
Yeah. They're getting something that's going to get used.
That's right. So they're getting, and that way now volunteers could come in and help stock our shelves and help our clients when they come through to choose their food too. We try to do healthy choices. We get fruit, vegetables, canned items, but we do have a lot of perishable food. We're lucky we do a second harvest.
Okay.
It's a Feed America second harvest program. So Walmart and Sam's participates. So we pick up Walmart 3 times a week.
And so what is that exactly?
So Second Harvest is another nonprofit, and their focus to end hunger. And we belong to that, and that's when we qualify people. We have to qualify you, and you come in, and so some of our food is supplemented through the USDA free food items and Walmart and Sam's. So next Tuesday, Sam's will deliver to us.
Okay.
And we could have 1 pallet. We could have 16 pallets of food.
Well, you got a truck today.
Yeah, we got a truck. It ended up coming yesterday in the rain.
Oh, it did? Oh, okay. Oh, in the rain.
And
okay.
so we had to unload it in the rain. And that was Second Harvest. Sometimes we purchase that food, and sometimes through USDA, we are allowed to get it for free.
Okay.
So yesterday we had 14,000 pounds of food come in.
Wow.
And we posted that on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't realize it came through yesterday, though.
Yep, it did. It ended up coming yesterday.
And so is that just your 15 employees that help unload all of that? Or
that was like 4 employees that unloaded that.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Because we have employees that work donation, and it's just so busy,
Sure.
they just don't have time to stop. We have employees that work administration. We have 2 employees that work the food pantry. We have guys that work the guy side. We have 3 employees on that side. So it was them 3 plus some of the admin. Yeah, we'd help unload, and we had to do it twice yesterday. So the truck came to Care Help because it was raining. If not, we would have unloaded it on Thomas Street.
Okay.
Thomas Street, when it rains, kind of floods.
Yeah.
And we don't have no way to cover it. So they came to Care Help. We unloaded it there. It was 10 pallets of food. And when the rain went through by 3 o'clock yesterday, then by hand, we unloaded it onto a trailer and drove it to the food pantry
And then unloaded it again. Wow.
It is on pallets. Our doors aren't wide enough.
So you have to break
at
the
the
pallet
food pantry,
apart.
so we have to break the pallets down.
I see.
Yep.
This is fascinating.
So that's where volunteers would come in.
Yeah, big
Real handy.
time.
Yeah. So we got 14,000 pounds of food that needs to be,
Well, I hear people, I mean, myself included, always say, and see, this has always been a struggle for me, is not unlike probably the people that you mentioned, isn't that I need to see the people I'm helping, but I want to know that I'm doing something
You're
that's
doing some
actually helping. I don't care what it is. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's dirty or if it's in the back of a warehouse, but I just want to know that it's not waste.
Right.
And I think maybe that's selfish. I don't know. But I guess if there's other people out there listening to this, if you live in this area, you have an opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. And sometimes people are nervous.
Sure.
They're scared. We have a volunteer that's been volunteering with us for 27 years.
Wow.
27 years.
Dedicated.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's a cashier. So they get nervous when they first come. We have one now that comes 4 times a week. And it might be for 2 hours, or she might stay 8 hours. It's just up to her, and we love her to death, and she takes care of a lot of things that we don't have time to do. We have books, we have pictures, we have crafts, we have material, we have linen, linen to us like shower curtains, bedspread, sheets, dish towels. That stuff sells too. We have clothing, we have shoes, like need rubber banding and mated, and this needs to be salvaged, or this could be sold, or this can go to the assistant's office to assist somebody. So work boots, if you need free work boots, you come qualified, we'll give them to you.
So that's a different situation. Certain items get classified. Okay.
And our volunteers help with that.
What's the age limit? You have to be a certain age to volunteer?
So we actually ask that our volunteers be at least 16 or older.
Okay.
Now, the schools have beta.
Yeah.
They have different types of clubs, so they are younger when they come sometimes. And we ask that a parent accompanies, comes with them, and we give them double hours if the parent comes.
Okay.
Just because we're so busy, sometimes we can't keep an eye on younger children.
Yeah, you need to.
And we want to encourage them to come. We actually had a 7-year-old come last Friday.
Yeah.
And she wanted to help the homeless.
Okay.
So she actually helped take care of the shoes and some hangers, to just know that that's all she wanted to do, just come volunteer an hour of her time. And I think this week she's going to go work our food pantry.
So if a parent shows up with a teenager and they're not 16, they're 15, they can volunteer.
Absolutely.
As long as the parent's with them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just, of course, I can't help but think of it from my own perspective. This is the type of thing that my son and I would definitely get a lot out of, just interiorly, but then also know that it's actually going to help the community. I mean,
we always look for like work groups, Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
They can come. I mean, we're fixing to put up some shelving. We need somebody to help put some shelves together, and because when something like that needs done, it takes the employees away from what job they're doing.
Yeah, and because y'all have dedicated things that have to be done every day.
Have to be done.
Well, I can imagine just processing donations alone is just insane.
We probably have a 13-foot ceiling, and it's touching the ceiling right now.
Wow. And I did see that y'all expanded, right?
We did. We expanded. Well, actually, our pavilion was a cement slab with a roof, with a fence around it.
Yeah, I remember.
So cats could come, birds came, mildew came.
Yeah.
I mean, furniture out of a house goes outside, it's going to mildew.
Sure.
So we try to be good stewards, but sometimes it was just really hard to keep up with that. So we were finally able to close in our pavilion and go out 20 more feet. So it was like 85 feet long, and now it's almost 80 feet wide. And it's air conditioned, and now we're not having to throw furniture away.
Are you ever surprised by some of the donations?
Oh, all the time.
Where you just go, wow, somebody got rid of this.
Yeah.
Are you? What's something that you can think of that you just go, this is just kind of shocking?
We really have a cool piece that actually Tom has seen.
Yeah.
It is it's Rocky and Apollo, and it was commissioned when Rocky first came out.
Yeah.
So it's and it's signed by Sylvester Stallone and the guy who played Apollo.
Yeah.
And the man
Carl Weathers. I have a picture of him
Yes.
right around the corner.
Well,
in our office here.
This is a plaster, and it's them in the ring. Boxing, and their signatures are on it, and the man who was commissioned to make it. So we actually found there's only so many made. How did it end up carrying out? We have no idea. And we found it on eBay, and it sold for like $4,000.
Come on.
So the guy who commissioned it was murdered.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And
so this was one of these pieces where y'all went, okay, there's more to this story. This is
we
just
still
odd.
do not know where this piece came from.
And so it's just there for sale. Someone buy it, or
no? We actually have it put up. We just kind of hold on to it. We have a few other pieces. Elton Louviere, the Lorraine Bridge. It's signed and numbered, so we kind of put that away.
So y'all are rescuing some things.
Right. And we've sent some things to the museum. But there's some things that we're holding on to that we would like to do an auction.
Sure. That's what I was going to ask next. If there was anything ethically against, I guess auctioning or selling those items to make money for them.
We actually had somebody donate to us a mink coat, and she still had the receipt from when her husband bought it for her. And she said, I want you to try to get the most you can for this coat. This is what I want you to do. If you can sell this coat, then this coat's going to buy a lot of food. Yeah,
right. She's turning something, a luxury item, into actual... Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, somebody else may say, well, that coat was given to you while you're trying to sell it for $300.
Right.
Well, it's worth $300.
Right.
If we sold it for $100... and a secondhand store came in and bought it and sold it in their store for $300.
See, you're talking about something, and I'm going to get kind of off tangent, but this gets into interesting territory for me because subjects like this get my mind thinking, and it's the idea of transmutation or transformation, and that to me is another deep mystery of Christianity. That you can take one thing that is something else and it becomes something, the energy of it becomes something else entirely. Like crushed grapes and crushed grain become bread and wine become body and blood, which is a great blessing. So it's this one thing that was not related that becomes something else.
Right.
And so I think if we can take that mystery, and I know I might be making a stretch, but I'm hearing that same mystery in what you're talking about. If we could all take that viewpoint, yes, I see a mink coat, and I get your point. It's $300. But you got it for free, and that's the world's thinking, all trapped up in that kind of cycle. But if you get into that sort of mysterious Christian element of it, then you go, yeah, and we're going to transform that into
300 meals.
300 meals, which in and of itself is becoming Christ, because it's doing the Great Commission, to feed, serve, love. Yeah, it's beautiful in that way, but I wonder if sometimes it's just, I think the world kind of gets us in this cycle of thinking,
and I think some people misconstrue what Care Help is about. People come to Care Help and they think, well, they're supposed to be helping people.
Right.
They're selling this mink coat for $300.
And they go, you're helping yourself.
Yeah.
But who's yourself? We're us who help others. Yeah.
But that's why we always try to explain to people, somebody in need does not need a mink coat.
Right.
Somebody in need needs food or their electricity bill paid. If they need a mink coat, well, that's not a need, that's a want.
Yeah.
We want somebody to come in and want the mink coat and say, hey, that mink coat's worth $5,000. We'll give you $300 for it. That's how we look at it. Same for the Rocky Apollo thing we have. We know it's worth, because we know it's sold for that. So we're going to hold on to it and maybe do an auction one day.
Yeah. That's really a great idea, and to me, it makes sense. I mean, look, pawn shops do the same thing all the time, and nobody cares because
And they're doing that for profit.
For profit, that's right.
We're doing it to create more food or pay for. We do something called work for assistance.
Okay.
Couldn't even talk about that.
Yeah, what's that?
So let's say you get laid off.
Okay.
And you've never needed help before, but you're laid off, the mortgage is due, and you had a medical expense and you can't pay your mortgage. So you come to us and you come to Care Help and you work for this assistance. So if you need an electricity bill paid, your electricity bill's $359, you're going to come work 36 hours. We base it at $10 an hour. You work 36 hours, we pay your electricity bill.
Gotcha. I mean, what?
So we got something out of it, you know, and you really helped us. And what's amazing is they end up enjoying it. And we either have a volunteer for life, we have a new employee, or they've gone on back to work and have referred us to somebody else.
Right.
You know, or their church or whatever. I mean,
it's interesting
that's
watching
really
your face when you say that. You say, and they refer us to somebody else, and you have a big smile on your face because what you mean by refer is somebody else we can serve.
That's right.
And that's the payment.
That's right.
That's something.
And that's what we love about our Work for Assistance program. I mean, you don't have to be poor when you're in need sometimes. You might have been making great money.
Yeah.
Maybe you come down with cancer.
Yeah.
And you had to go to MD Anderson or Lafayette or Shreveport, and your paycheck's gone all of a sudden. Hotel rooms aren't cheap. Meals aren't cheap. You come home and you have a $300 electricity bill. You don't know how you're going to pay that. We have clients like that. We have helped people like that.
Yeah.
Or we pay for their hotel. You pay the electricity bill, we'll put you in a hotel. And we make hotel reservations for them wherever they need to go for the hospital. We pay deductibles for the elderly to have cataract surgery. That's what that meat and coat paid for.
Yeah, that's incredible. Actually, it's kind of, I guess can't fully wrap my head around it because I don't know what the numbers are, but it just seems like y'all are doing a lot if the thrift store is the primary income.
It is.
That's
the
wild.
thrift store is our primary income. Now, somebody wants to, write us a big check, we take
y'all
that
take
too.
that too, sure.
And sometimes we have grants, and sometimes they're a restricted grant, which may just be towards you can only buy food with this or whatever. Or it may be an open grant.
Yeah.
And we can do anything with it. So,
how active are y'all in that and writing grants and participating?
Really, we don't do a whole lot of them. We've done a few. We are not state or federally funded at all. In any way does the state or federal government fund us.
Okay.
So that way we can encourage people. We can hand out Bibles. We can share the love of Jesus.
Right.
We can tell them what works for us. A lot of us have been in those same shoes. We've homelessness, addiction. So we can share that with somebody and say, hey, we know how we made it.
Yeah.
Jesus is the only way you're going to make it.
Yeah, I have friends who work in different nonprofits, and some of those folks have even been on the show, and just in working with them to whatever capacity we can through here, I do notice anytime there's some state funding or state regulation that they have to tiptoe around that.
Right.
And I find it's you almost can sense that there's like a desire to go a little further, but they have to hold back sometimes in that regard.
Well, God's never let us down.
Yeah.
I mean, we've prayed for something, and just how amazing, a few hours later, it's dropped off.
Do y'all pray together at
Oh,
Care
absolutely.
Help? Really?
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
We have a mighty little prayer warrior at Care Help, and she... I think if she didn't work there in the mornings, and people would probably want to know where she's at.
Yeah.
But yes, we pray at Care Help. We open Care Help in prayer. And if you drop off at Care Help, this little prayer warrior is going to ask you, do you need prayer?
Yeah.
Or she'll pray with you right there. Most of the employees will pray with you right there in the parking lot.
That's amazing.
It is awesome.
It really is.
It is awesome.
I think that sometimes I've seen it, and I know I'm guilty of it too, for many years, to sort of cleave your life into parts. My spiritual life belongs in this part, and then my business life is this part, and my family life is this part, so on and so forth, till there's all these little boxes everywhere. And what I found in doing that was that the benefit from one box wasn't going over the wall to benefit the other one. It wasn't like an ice cube tray, you know. It wasn't filling up everywhere. And so once I started breaking that down and going, you know, equanimity, I guess is the word. I need to let the blessings from one pour over into the other, so it's like a whole life mentality. Because I think I probably had a segmented life mentality, and that, to me, what you're describing is that whole life mentality. It's like, hey, you're dropping stuff off, but I'm going to also ask you about this need too, and offer to pray for you or pray with you.
Some people say no. Some people might just say yes, and then they may come back again and say, you know, maybe you can pray for me. I mean, some people are uncomfortable by that. Yeah. But what I love about this worker is she just loves people. Yeah. You know, and that's what Care Help's about. I mean, it's in the name. That's right. We're just here to love on people. Yeah. We're not here to condemn you. You know, we're all human. We're all human, and we do have employees that, you know, may have a bad day. We all have bad days, but we have people who come work at Care Help Community Service for assistance, and we never want them to feel ashamed. Yeah. You know, I want them to know that we've all been where you've been. Sure. I mean, you know, I think that community service it's been viewed as sort of a punishment for so long, and what's so sad is both of those words are really beautiful words, but when you put them together, the first thing we think of is somebody's being punished for something. Well, sometimes we need to be punished. But you know what I mean? Held like accountable, community service, you know, it's like, it's a negative thing when really we could, you say it with a totally different inflection, community service. That's right. You know, it's a positive thing. And maybe people who come, they might have that experience where they're like, you know, this is maybe the first time or maybe the first time in a long time that they've got to do something that wasn't for themselves. That's right. And they get to get that feeling and that reward. And they just have no idea. I mean, we're kind of a one of a kind. We're not like Goodwill. You know, Salvation Army, similar, but there's just nobody else like us. There's just nobody else like Care Help in our area at all. You know, we can't call up another Care Help and say, hey, send us 50,000 pounds of food for the next 3 weeks. There's no network. Generate that. That's right. There's no network. Yeah, the network's the community and the churches and whoever. That's right. Yeah. The community, the churches, the public sector, the private sector. I mean, it's just amazing. It actually says a lot about our community. Oh, this is the most giving community. Really? The most giving community. Most definitely. I was discouraged the other day. I don't know if I don't like talking about bad news on this show, but sometimes talking about it gets to a good point. And I believe it was Jerry Falwell Jr.'s. Yeah, Jerry Falwell Jr. was making a point that he said that poor people were a drain on society, and that, you know, they don't really create jobs, and that they can't help their communities as much as wealthy people. And boy, when I read that, it just stung so bad, because I thought, I don't know. I just kind of paused for a second. I thought, I don't know if I agree with this. And I thought about sulfur, and I thought about the people that I know who help people. I'm not saying wealthy people don't help, right? But the people who have their hands in it most of the time aren't wealthy people, not the people I know. And that could be just the circles that I've walked in. But from what I've seen in our community, it's people who have had some hard luck themselves show up. Because you've been there. Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of thought that was an odd thing to say. I was like maybe a little detached from the way things really are. Well, that's why I always tell people, you know, kind of like, come and see. I mean, you're going to sit here and judge somebody. Why don't you come spend a day at our assistant's office? Yeah. Just come sit today. Come listen to the single mom who her husband left and she has 3 kids, but she can't go get a job because she can't afford daycare. Right. You know? Right. She got 3 kids she's got to put in school. Yeah. They can't go to school yet. They got to go to daycare. You know how expensive daycare is? Sure. Oh, yeah, for sure. So she has to qualify for any type of state assistance. Maybe she doesn't have transportation. How's she going to get them to daycare? Yeah. So it's kind of a vicious cycle, but it can be broke. Yeah. And sometimes it just takes some people to care. Yeah. But we have a lot of people in our community who care. There's a lot of organizations in our community who strive to try to help those very people. Yeah. And you're going to win some and you're going to lose some.
Well,
It's an investment. You make an investment in people.
You're talking about something that's close to my heart because, not too many months ago, that happened to somebody very, very close to me. And a lot of people wrote this person off. And he had some mental health issues, and really was having a hard time with that. But had no transportation, no job prospects because of some health and mental health issues, and then was also at that time a difficult person to be around.
Sure.
And I guess a limit was met. A limit was reached by people, and they're just like, I can't do this anymore. Enough is enough. And the street was the answer. You're out. And I couldn't bring myself to go. I hadn't hit my limit yet. And I learned through that process I guess it wasn't my time. Somebody had to not have a limit, and it was me at that particular time. But sticking it out with that person has proven to be worth it, because now it's a brighter and brighter day all these months later.
Right.
Every day is a little better. Situation's a little brighter. And it may take a little while, but it's not where it was. And, I think what would have happened to that person if they'd have been on the street? I mean, they'd have been dependent. And if I would have said no,
That's right.
and I go, well, then Care Help would have been there for somebody like that if they could have found that.
So, like the Calcasieu River Bridge really separates Calcasieu Parish.
Mm-hmm.
So there's mental health needs, there's medical needs that can't be met in our community.
Yeah.
These people have to get across the bridge.
Yeah.
There's no transportation.
Right.
We have called like Lyft to help get people across the bridge because they can't afford Lyft if they're homeless but they need to go to mental health. Or to certain doctors
or even
or
just
whatever.
Social Security's office or anything.
That's right. That's right.
And a lot of that's in Lake Charles. And now that situation is going to be even more compounded
because of the
with the bridges. Yeah.
And I don't think, people who pay the mortgage every month and go on vacations, they don't really realize how hard it is. Sometimes even me and my own husband, he's a hard worker. He provides well for my family, his family. Even he has a hard time understanding they had the same opportunity that I had. I said, no, they didn't. You don't understand.
Yeah.
Your mama might have woke you up in the morning and had a warm breakfast.
Right.
Their mama may still be hung over in bed or not even home.
Yeah.
You don't know what they deal with until you start getting to know somebody.
Well, I mean, that's something that bothers me a lot in I guess in our current culture is a tone of disregard, where just what you just said, where we look at another person and go, oh, you weren't loved enough as a child. And it's like in a tone of almost like, I had to go through my stuff, you go through your stuff. From my perspective, and I can only speak for me, I cannot even say the word Christian if I'm taking that attitude, because I feel like the worst kind of hypocrite, because I'm going, look, that little bit of love that they didn't get, first, on top of just the circumstances of the world, that maybe that happened to you, maybe it happened to them. There's also a lot of things we know now about the chemical makeup of people's minds. I mean, things they're born with.
Right. That
we don't even know that are there from childhood. They start developing in their teenage years. So maybe that little bit of love that you didn't need and you turned out fine, that little bit of attention for them was astronomically large, and it changed the course of their life. We can't just disregard them. We actually had a client we helped all the time. Most grouchiest person, just grouchy. Yeah.
But really, like you said, it was the makeup of the person, and I think it was, I'm going to be mean to you before you're mean to me.
Sure. Mechanism.
I'm going to be grouchy to you before you say something that might hurt my feelings. But we loved this person. We loved on him, and we loved on him until the day he died. And he was just the best client, but grouchy. But he would hug us and still be grouchy, But I just saw where love can tear down so many barriers.
Sure. Well, it's hard. Some people don't know how to be loved. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I was loved, but then I was also hurt too as a child. I mean, and that's whatever that is, and you become an adult, and so when you try to start navigating relationships,
we all have scars.
You're navigating,
and we all
that
have
stuff.
stories. Everybody who walks through those doors, whether you're a shopper, a donor, or a client in need, we all have stories.
Yeah,
we all have stories.
So you've been there 5.5 years as a director. I'm assuming, is that the title, director?
Mm-hmm.
So in that time period, I mean, you were there obviously before that. You worked there, but in this last 5.5 years, have you felt this role change you and change your mind and your heart? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's changed for you in this time? 'Cause that's a long time, 5.5 years. I mean,
they've had directors there longer than, I think there's seasons. God just changes the seasons for different people. Somebody created Care Help, and then the seed was planted, and then people come along and water it and water it and water it, and then I came along, and I think I guess because of where I've been. So let's just say I'm the first person who has been on the board. I mean, that's been a director. That's just kind of had a different lifestyle.
What do you mean by that?
So, and I mean, I've shared my testimony lots of times with a lot of people. I'm a convicted felon.
Okay.
So, Care Help would have never probably put a convicted felon in as the executive director, but God did.
Yeah.
God saw that. And so my eyes were kind of opened a little differently.
Yeah.
I don't have a degree. God qualified me for this job. I just, plain and simple. So I had my own business, and one day I had a dream that I was going to be the director of Care Help.
Wow.
And I was like, no way. You've given me my own business. I'm not going to be director of Care Help. I'm not qualified. You got me doing this. And I went and visited the previous director, and I told her this vision that I had. And she was pretty much like, you'd be great, but you're never going to be that. You're a convicted felon.
Yeah.
And, year and a half later, I was director of Care Help. So,
that's incredible.
Yeah. I never
wasn't in your plan
Never.
Anyway.
But it was God's plan.
Yeah.
It was God's plan.
Isn't that something?
So, I've been on probation. I've been there. I've been where a lot of these people have been, and that's what's amazing. They'll sit in my office and say, "You don't know what I'm talking about," but I do know what you're talking about.
You've been down that road.
I've seen those hardships. I know how important it is for family to support you. I know how important it is for you to be plugged into a church. It's important that you're plugged into the Word. And apply that to your life. It's one of the hardest things to do, because most people think God's just this big magician and he's just going to change your life when you wake up the next morning.
Yeah.
And that's not it. You have to walk through your choices.
Yeah.
Every choice has a consequence. And so I made some bad choices, and, I had to pay the consequences. But what the devil intended for bad, God used for good.
Transformation,
That's
transmutation.
right.
One
That's
thing
right.
becomes another thing.
That's right.
Yeah, and look, what you've been through now gives you a specific pair of eyes.
So that's kind of how we've changed a little course with Care Help. Even though you wouldn't want a mechanic to operate on you. You take your car to a mechanic, but you're going to take your physical ailments to a doctor.
Sure.
And sometimes I feel that Care Help helped people. We helped them. They paid but if you've never been where they've been, it's hard to minister to them.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what I'm hearing you say, and I guess as I sometimes pictures pop in my head when I'm talking to people, but as you're talking, I keep thinking of somebody who their car dies when they're driving on a wet road and their car goes in the ditch. Well, first thing you have to do is get the car out of the ditch.
That's right.
Next thing is to call a tow truck, and then a mechanic. There's layers to getting better. Care Help is at that moment where, look, our car's in the ditch.
Yeah.
Right? We need help now.
That's right. We need immediate
Step
help.
one, I need this.
And that's really what our mission is, to supply short-term assistance.
Yeah.
To those in need, and showing the love of God. That's
in the process of that.
The whole point. That's the whole point. So that's what's amazing when somebody comes for help and they're embarrassed or they're ashamed, or you can just tell they're just lugging this bag of rocks.
Sure.
Somebody keeps giving it to them. You leave it and you think you're going to do better, and you forgot your rocks. So we're wanting to tell them you can let go of the rocks.
Yeah.
Let us help a little bit. Short-term assistance necessarily doesn't mean one time. Short-term could be 9 months. I mean, it just depends. We want to help you get on your feet.
Yeah.
We don't want to pay your bills. We want to help you pay your bills.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know somebody that I'm kind of helping right now, and I'm not saying that I want to be conscious that I'm not saying that like to get a badge.
Sure.
But it's a part of the story, and I don't have to help them all the time, but I have to help them some of the time because I know that they're trying.
That's right.
But they have had some things happen that are out of their control, and I go, look, if they slip right here, then everything's going to tumble down. And I could go, look, I've helped you enough. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. Or I can just be there, kind of just...
That little nudge.
Yeah, just going, hey, this just to get you through.
To keep the domino standing.
Yes, so you can get through this.
That's
and
right.
so you don't fall off the edge.
And that's what Care Help does. That's really what we do.
That's what it sounds like.
That's really what we try to do. Now, our food pantry is different. We're never going to turn you away for food. But we've been keeping track of who we helped probably for... 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's sad because we can sit here and see where we've been feeding somebody, the same person, for 15 years. So in the last 5.5 years, we try to look at that and we're like, how can we help you?
Yeah.
Is your bills more than your pay? Or, and sometimes we understand it's because of certain circumstances, their pay's never going to be more.
Right. They're always upside down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Our elderly is that way.
Sure.
Their pay is never going to be more. If anything, they're going to take more out of their Social Security check.
And that's getting thinner and thinner.
Thinner and thinner. So you have grandmothers who are trying to, maybe they still have a small mortgage or a second mortgage that they're trying to pay. Sometimes, or they're all of a sudden sick. And it's either life-saving medicine or the electricity bill.
Yeah.
So sometimes we're like, okay, look, the electricity bill's less. You pay that, and we'll go to Brookshires and pay for your medicine.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And so, but we always want to help, and we don't want to hurt, because sometimes helping people hurts people. Mm. So we want to make sure that we're helping for the right reasons.
What do you mean? Can you tell me what you mean by that?
So we feed people,
yeah,
and what we qualify, we qualify every single person we help.
Okay.
They have to qualify. And that doesn't mean they have to be dirt poor. They just have to come in, fill out an application. We need to know that there's a need.
Yeah.
There's a need.
I got you. It's not just because.
It's not just a handout.
Yeah.
And sometimes if it becomes a yearly thing, every year in December, you might come for your electricity bill to be paid.
Right.
We realize that that's not, there's a reason why. Why are you coming every December for your bill to be paid?
Yeah.
So we like to sit with them and try to figure that out, So sometimes helping somebody actually hurts them if we keep is an enabling process.
I got you. Yeah, you don't want to enable. You're trying to get people
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to know, now look, we're not going to do this again. This is our last time. You need to go. Popeyes is hiring. McDonald's is hiring.
Yeah.
We'll give you a bike. You can ride a bike to work. We got people who ride bikes to work all the time.
Sure.
We have people who walk. We give people rides to work. And so, a little tough love. And a lot of people come back and say thank you for it.
Yeah, guidance and
That's right.
some structure.
That's right. Or if you need any type of medical assistance, you need mental, behavioral health, we'll get you there. I wish we could get it over here,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do y'all have any partnerships, and that may not be the right word, with any kind of clinics in Sulphur of any kind that kind of says, hey, we're here for Care Help? And
yeah. We actually help pay sometimes for counseling services. The hospitals know to call us for a need. We can call them for a need. CCOA, Council on Aging, of course, they really are wonderful what they do with the elderly, but those are sometimes the very same elderly that we're assisting too.
Okay.
We do a lot of monetary assistance.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of organizations don't have those funds, so they have other types of assistance. They may be teaching addiction classes or budgeting classes or anger management. So we always want to encourage the people that we help to go there for those classes that they may need.
I see.
I mean, I don't know how we could squeeze another thing in.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. I mean, it sounds like a hydra, it's got all these arms.
And we all try to work together. There's a lot of other organizations right here in our area that are doing something. So we try to network that together, if at all possible,
Yeah, you're really working off of the premise that community matters.
And we're always trying to do and figure and learn something more. So our biggest vision is to have a transitional women's home.
Okay. There's nothing like that in Sulphur.
So that is our biggest goal. And
is that a need that you see?
Oh, it's absolutely.
Okay, I wonder. Usually if that's one of your goals, it must be something you're seeing.
Absolutely, it is a big need.
Yeah,
a big need. We and it's not just our community; it's Lake Charles and Moss Bluff and the state. I mean, Louisiana has, one of the highest incarceration rates in the world, not the nation, in the world.
Why? Why is that?
Maybe that our laws, I'm not real sure.
Yeah, I wonder too.
But and then our laws change. The rules and regulations change. If you're going to legalize marijuana when it was illegal, you got some people who's doing more time for that than they are for armed robbery or
right. The balance, everything's out of whack.
That's
you can
right.
look around and see that for sure.
I mean, we could sit here for hours and talk about a lot of things that are unfair.
Yeah.
I have been through the system, and I know how hard it is to get a job.
Yeah.
So like Texas banned box, and that's something that Care Help's always thought about too. Is when you go apply for a job here in most places, the first thing you say is, "Have you ever been convicted of a felon?"
Yeah. You say, yeah, you're done.
So most people just toss that to the trash.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fair, because if that was fair, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now.
Right. And what a unique position you're in. This again comes up on this show a lot, the march of time, and how time is shaping you and God's shaping you for something. I mean, in listening to you and your testimony, I'm going, wow. I mean, you are able to look at people who are coming to Care Help. I can only imagine the way you see people, which is something I think we'd all hope to achieve.
Because your eyes are opened. If you make one bad choice, your whole life can change.
Sure. Oh, and look I can only imagine. I've had people turn their back on me before, so I can imagine just the feelings of alienation and shame, honestly, the way people...
And you burn bridges.
Sure.
You burn bridges. When you're an addict or mentally sick, you tend to burn bridges. People don't know how to handle you. People don't know how to deal with you, just like we were talking about.
Yeah, right. Things get broken and they don't...
And I'm not here to fix anything. That's God's job. That's what Jesus does. He fixes. He does all the fixing. You don't get good to get God. You get God to get good. That's how it is, I wasn't qualified for this job. God qualified me. But my choices, my life, my journey, I never thought that I would be the director of Care Help. I worked there. In fact, it was my first job after I got out of jail, because I couldn't find a job.
And Care Help extended that.
Well, actually, they weren't going to hire me because of my conviction.
Yeah.
But the person knew me and said, "I know you."
Like vouching for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
But there was that little bit of shame.
Sure.
We normally don't hire people like you, but...
Like you.
But with your background, we're going to hire you. And God knew what he was doing. God knew what he was doing.
I love stories like this because it's very... real, very common that this happens, and I don't know, it's just a story of hope and redemption, in my opinion.
That's exactly that's what Care Help's about. I think that's what anybody who works in the sector of helping people, is, look, let me just tell you my story. Even though we're a thrift store and even though we're a food pantry, everybody who comes through is some kind of way hurting.
Yeah.
And if God will do it for me, he'll do it for you. And it ain't just my story. There's other people's stories that are just the same. And that's what I love about Care Help. What I love about what we stand for, to help those in need.
I love it too. I love hearing about it. I love knowing more now.
And so people just think we're a thrift store, and we're not. It's just that we need
so
a thrift
much
store.
more.
Yeah.
Do you ever read The Catcher in the Rye? The book, The Catcher in the Rye? The guy in the book, The Catcher in the Rye, I mean, it's where the title comes from, and spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read Catcher in the Rye, but he has a dream that he's in a field of rye, and it's all this golden rye, and all these children are running towards him, and he looks behind him, and he's on the edge of this big ravine, and he's running back and forth trying to stop the children because they're running through and they don't realize that they're running towards the edge, and he's trying to catch them before they fall off the edge. And I guess as you were talking, that popped in my head because I thought that's very similar to what you're doing at Care Help. You're kind of the catcher in the rye for a lot of people, where they're heading towards a cliff. I mean, they're really at the edge of the precipice to a lot of bad things that could happen.
The girls who run the assistance office, that's what they try to do. So you have to bring us your checking account statement. If you got a checking account statement, bring it to us.
Yeah.
We want to know, do you need budgeting classes, or so we try. That's what they do. They try to help these younger people. You can't go eat at McDonald's every day.
Sure. New training, new habits.
That's right. You have to. They don't teach that in school anymore.
We were just talking about this, me and my son, and somebody else, I can't remember, but we were having a conversation about how we really wish that there was more emotional intelligence classes for young people, because we'd send them to school to learn math, science, history, civics, and for a long time I think we've all felt like, well, that's what you need to know. And now we know we need to know a whole lot more, because the rest of it, unless you have some super mentally healthy family,
right?
Then
Who has that?
Right.
That don't exist.
Then you're going to have to figure that stuff out there and make a ton of mistakes and probably damage yourself and other people in the process.
But when I was in school, we were taught. We took classes, life skill classes. They don't teach that anymore.
Right.
So we have people who come to Care Help who don't know how to balance a checkbook, or we have an elderly woman whose husband passed away who paid all the bills. He balanced the checkbook. He took care of the funds. She doesn't know how.
Right.
So what we try to do is we try to find what churches do you attend. Maybe we can get somebody in your church involved and come help you.
And some mentorship type stuff too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's how we're striving for the women's home. So that's what when we were just talking, a women's transitional home, it would be wonderful. It would house up to 16 women. That's what we would been approved for. And this ain't just like for a 6-month stay. This would either be a year or 2-year stay. You might start working at Care Help, because you got to have boundaries. Most women who's come out of being incarcerated or the streets, they have to have boundaries. And those 2 years is how you would work up,
Mm-hmm.
And mentors. We want the churches, how awesome would it be for you to mentor a woman, the women's groups or whatever, and take them under your wing and mentor them, and other classes too. I mean, there's lots of other places in our community, like I said, doing things, doing the high set, the GED, or let them go to those places and take those classes. But at night, they know where they're going to be sleeping at.
Yeah.
And it's going to be safe.
Right.
And they're bettering themselves. And if they've lost their kids, then social services, they can work their cases to get their kids back. And Care Help could still help, because it would be funding, and this person would be working, so they would be earning, earning their keep.
Creating a whole new cycle.
That's right. A whole new cycle. But it isn't just with the working. They got to have mentors.
Yeah. Is this, and so you're not just creating the system, you're actually walking with them through the whole thing. Yeah.
That's right.
Accompaniment.
That's right.
Yeah, that's very important, I think, because you can give a message to somebody, but if you're not going to accompany them and put anything in with them, then
you just can't point the way. You got to be able to show them that it's doable.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I've always said, it's like investing your money. You're gonna either win some and make some money, and you might lose a little bit, but you're investing. And so that's what you're doing with the women's home. You're going to be investing in these women. Most of them wouldn't have their children because if they're on the street or been incarcerated, they've lost their children. Or parents have them, or the other spouse, or they're in foster care.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of other doors that open when you start dealing with hurting people.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got witnesses, I guess I'd call it witnesses, people who can vouch for your recovery, so to speak, or your new path that you're on, so you can move towards getting your children back or whatever
That's
is
right.
step 2.
That's right.
That you're not just alone trying to prove that.
But, when people have mental problems and need mental health, or they get out of being incarcerated, they have nowhere to go. So what do? They go right back where they came from because they have no other choice.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories like that.
Our homeless are that way, you know. Now, if somebody who's worked really hard all their life and not afraid to work, and they fall upon hard times, they normally can get themselves out of a hole.
Yeah.
Because they're hard workers.
Yeah.
But those who don't ever had the tools don't know how to get out of that hole that they've dug.
Right.
They just keep making the same bad choices over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, they'll run back to those same people, even or communities that they were with in the first place. I've heard that same kind of testimony from a lot of people. It's one of the first steps they said was getting away from that particular pattern of folk that will take you back into that world wherever you're coming from. Man, I have learned. I feel like I could go on and ask questions.
We didn't even hit everything, so that just shows you just how.
Yeah. Well, we do have this thing I like to do on the show. I don't know if you've heard about it yet, but it's Fishing for Goodies. It's this fish bowl right here. And so what that is it's full of questions that we've put in there, questions that have come out of the show, and then questions that people who listen to the show have emailed me. And so what I ask is each person draws 3 things out of there, and then I read them, and then we'll discuss them. And what's odd, there's 100 or 200 different questions in there, and some of the people have actually drawn some of the same ones. What is one thing, and this might be interesting to hear your answer actually, what is one thing you would never want to be associated with?
What is one thing you would never want to
Yeah, that's an odd question considering how much we've talked about not judging,
right?
Especially what you're dealing with too every day. What you're seeing, you can't really have, and you almost have to take the opposite and go, well, okay, I can't have a barrier, but maybe there is something that's just like really off limits, and you say, look, this is something I just draw a line at.
That I wouldn't want to be associated with.
Yeah.
What is one thing?
That's a pretty broad question.
Yeah, and I guess it's hard for me to sit there. Personally, my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want anybody to ever say that, that I'm a hypocrite.
Right. That's right. That's why I said that question's odd.
Or that she doesn't have empathy for people.
In this particular,
That's right.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's exactly what I thought.
That could just be a can of worms for me.
Yeah, it would be.
Because my mind is always, when I go home, my mind's still turning.
Yeah.
Oh, did I not say hello to that person?
Right.
Or was I too hard on somebody? Because what's bad about me is I'm a straight shooter. I shoot straight from the hip. And sometimes I shouldn't. Or maybe I should. And so I'm like, did I push them over?
Yeah.
Was I a little too hard on them about just being real?
Yeah.
I guess I'm a realist. I just believe in saying, no, this is what you're thinking.
Yeah. I that kind of question's hard for me too. What I've learned, if I'm being really honest, is I like the idea of not having a boundary. And I don't mean like a free-for-all where anything's okay to do. But what I mean is I like to think that I'm open to everybody. But what I've discovered is I don't think those boundaries are there until something happens, and then I go, ooh, okay, I'm feeling my aversion to this, or I have to set a boundary now. And then I go, well, okay, I found the limits of my compassion. Or not even my compassion, I just found my limit.
Well, I think we all have to have boundaries.
Sure, like a safe, something to function with.
Because this whole time we've talked, we talked a lot about how God shapes me and what Care Help does, and I really try to help people, but I also have to protect Care Help.
Right.
That's my job. I have to protect Care Help
Yeah,
too.
if you don't, it won't
That's
be there. Right.
You know, and it starts with the head, and I mean, I'm the director, and I'm governed by a board, but I'm still the head at Care Help, and so I have to make good standards, you know. And,
Yeah.
And my motto is, you got to be willing to serve in order to lead. And I do, and I expect the people below me to serve too. And so I never want somebody to say, she don't do nothing. She just sits in that office, or, you know, or, hey, go see Miss Jody. She'll help you. Well, sometimes we have to have boundaries, and I'm like, I can't help you.
Right.
You know, I wish I could.
Yeah.
But you could do this, you know.
Yeah. You're willing to creatively solve the problem.
Yeah.
It may not be what the person's asking for.
Or maybe just say, hey, what is the solution to the problem? So we do have to set boundaries, or people say, well, why can't you pay for that? Or why can't you do that? Or you did this for so-and-so. But it's a case-by-case thing.
Yeah.
But I do have to set boundaries, or it'd be a free-for-all, you know.
Well, see, I think in a way that's what I love about these questions. They generate more discussion.
Want to be associated with.
Yeah, but in a way, I mean, you are answering that. I mean, basically, you're saying that it is sort of a need by need, or it's based on the circumstance. I mean, I would say the same thing in my life. I can sit here and give you a blanket answer and say, oh, I'm totally fine with this, and I'm totally not okay with that. And then a thing comes in that if I want to give it a broad stroke, I can throw it in that silo over there and say, well, I don't agree with that. But if I really look at the person and start getting the details, I go, well, it's a little murky. I mean,
right.
You know, they start moving into the...
A lot of people see black and white.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, oh, wait, I see all the other colors.
I'm kind of the same way. And I mean, and I know that can be dangerous. Well, what that means is, I think it ends up creating... One, I don't mean this arrogantly, but a gift of discernment.
Right.
Because then you are looking at the details. I think the details matter.
That's right.
Especially when it comes to people. I mean, I talked about this in an episode that hasn't aired yet, but I used to really judge my father harshly. And granted, I mean, by some people's standards, they go, well, you had a reason to for certain things. But as I've gotten older and I have come to learn of his whole life, what I did not know when I was very judgmental, now I don't have those feelings because I go, now I know the details and I go, oh, well, I understand where this came from. I see where it was born and why, and that he was doing his best. And so now, instead of looking on him with judgment, I actually find that I look on him with more love for having, because I know the details now. So if I'd have just went black and white, I could have just lived over in this one very cold, judgmental place, you know? So yeah, that's a good question and good answers. This is interesting. Nobody's asked this one yet. You can spend a day in the life of anyone in history. So you can spend a day in the life of anyone in history. Who is it? Is there somebody that you go, you know, I would love to know what it was like to be here during this event?
You know, I can't even.
That's a big one. I don't know if I could think of just one. I think I'd probably have to I'd have to choose something, I think, that's where it would, I guess, not just having the experience, but just to see something. I don't know. For me, I think there's things like, I always bring up Gandhi on the show, and I think just witnessing some of the events in his life, you know, I've read about him in some of the books and things like that, and I watched the movie, but I think just actually being there in his, if I could be in his life just for a day to fully understand, not just in this sort of intellectual way, but like to fully comprehend what the fear probably felt like, to stand up nonviolently in line and just walk forward and to take the punishments and to be beat upon and then to get up and do it again. What does that feel like? What does that do? I mean, I think, because I know what makes me afraid. Right. And it doesn't take that much to get into my fear territory. And I think that would be, for me, one I would think probably, if it was just a day, just to have a takeaway, you know?
I don't know. I mean, I'm like just blank. I don't know. I guess I don't never.
Well, maybe, and Tom and I talked about this on his. Sometimes people are just in the right place in history.
I just don't really. Yeah. I haven't really ever thought, man, if I could just spend the life of somebody else for one day.
Yeah. Some people, I think, would take that answer and like just throw it into a life. Oh, I'd love to live this luxurious life.
Yeah, no.
I've never had that. For me, I want to have some takeaway, like something to, and maybe that even, that could be interesting too. I mean, if you're going to spend the day in the life of somebody else in history, but you're still going to be you, maybe it would be interesting to see what extreme luxury and opulence looks like. If for no other reason, just to understand what it could do to you, because I think it definitely changes people.
Oh, I think it would.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how I read things that people write or comments they make that live in those kind of situations, and sometimes it makes me scratch my head. I'm like, so they don't know. There was something recently in the news. It was some popular, I don't know, movie star, I'd say, like a celebrity, and they were surprised and were posting on the internet that was acting as though it was a surprise that you put milk in cereal. And I thought it was a joke, but it was real. I was like, oh, they really don't know that these two things go together, because they're so just sort of detached from reality
of how the real people live,
or how the rest of us, poor.
Right.
And I thought, that's interesting. I said, that's something I guess that just never occurred to me.
Yeah, me neither.
Right. So maybe living in a world like that would be interesting, if nothing else, to get some really heavy takeaways. I don't know.
I mean, sometimes it's kind of fun to, when you travel and you go somewheres but I would never want to live that way. I just feel so blessed.
Yeah.
I feel like I am rich. I really, truly do. And I mean, I guess it's because of the nature of what we do at work, but because it's, the more you serve people, the more you find out who you are.
Mm.
You find more of you. Maybe it's like, it's less of you, more of God. I don't know.
Yeah.
But...
yeah, so you're getting a stark reminder every day of what
absolutely
your blessings are.
Of to be so thankful. I may have been where some of the same places they've been, but I'm thankful that where I am now, I can just look back and see where other people's carried me. Prayer, I don't know. I just can't really think of anything that I would want to go spend we could go to biblical times. I mean,
and see some history, right?
Yeah. But I don't have like an idol or,
Yeah.
I have more of a creative mind.
Uh-huh.
So mine's more of the, I don't know. I can't think of anybody.
Well, you know what? I mean, like I said, I think maybe sometimes we're just fine to be where we are, because sounds like you found purpose. And so fantasizing about being somewhere else makes no sense.
That you know what, that's I feel like I found purpose.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, a lot of us, that's what I think
we're
a
all
lot of us,
for.
We're looking for something. We want to find meaning. I mean, we want to know that something matters. Sure. I've asked this on the show before. What's the biggest joy thief that you're aware of in your life?
What's the biggest thing that steals my joy?
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of things that could steal your joy.
Yeah. Do you find that happens or a lot, or you?
No, not now. I don't, because I know how bad things could be.
Yeah.
From personal life. My husband's had head and neck cancer, and he's 5 years
really
cancer free.
That's
so
wonderful.
I just know how bad it could be. So, and I guess I know I'm not going to let my joy be stolen.
Yeah, you've found a place for it.
Right.
It's very secure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, it's not like I don't have problems.
Sure.
But when I get up in the morning, I'm thankful. And I have grandbabies. My kids are grown. So, if I'm watching the grandkids and you get a little stressed, I'm like, I can remember when I did. I missed that. Or, I'm pretty determined that I'm not going to let the enemy steal my joy.
Well, and I think maybe the word joy might mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I think it could be mistaken for like temporary happiness. Like, oh, I'm so joyful. I'm just like smiling and cheerful. And because I'm not super happy and cheerful and bouncy. That's not my personality. And somebody might say, well, he's just not joyful. But really and truly, I find joy is a little more permanent and longer than that. For me, joy comes... Well, I went for a nice walk this morning and it wasn't raining, and I love going for walks in the morning, and blue sky, the sun was coming up, it was cool outside, it just felt good, and I was breathing, and I was like, this, I didn't consciously say, oh, this is joy. But when I think on it now, that was joy. It wasn't party streamers everywhere.
Right.
It was just a simple flat joy.
It wasn't a celebration, but it was still joyful.
Yeah, there was a blessing in being able to breathe and just hear and see, and I think that
I'm not a negative person. I mean, most people who've met me, I never see the cup even empty. I'm like, there's still a drop there. There's still hope. There's still... So, it's really hard. I mean, I have bad days, I have disagreements or whatever.
Sure, I'm sure you get weary like anybody.
Yeah. But I'm always the first one to be quick to apologize. And maybe it's just because of where I've been,
Yeah.
And I'm a people person. I am a people person. So.
I can tell this is the first time I've met you. And I mean, when you walked in, I was like, oh, I feel comfortable already. not a stranger at all.
I'm going to be the one to break the ice, Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I'm joyful all the time.
And what a wonderful way to be in your role as a director there, because that's, if people are going to encounter you, whether they be coming in for assistance or if they're working there as a volunteer, having that type of personality is very disarming and makes people comfortable.
And that's what you want to do, because there's no fun in condemnation.
Right. It's heavy.
And people already feel that when they come for help.
Yeah.
Whether it's help or community service or they already feel condemned.
Oh, and all that. All the negative things, the shame,
society.
Sure, I know that. I
carried my bag of rocks around for a long time.
Having to ask for help's a terrible thing. It's hard.
Yeah.
It really, really is. I've had to do it, and I haven't talked about this on the show at all, but years ago, back whenever, like I told you, I was going to Care Help. I remember I was working at a job. It was during the hurricane, and that house that I had rented, the landlords decided they didn't want to rent it to anybody anymore. They were going to tear it down. And so they just evicted me and my kids. And so we had to find a place to live. And it was, I'd say, damn near impossible. There was nothing for rent anywhere because of the whole hurricane. It was 2 hurricanes. Everybody was displaced. There was places in disarray. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm leaving a perfectly good home to do what now? I have nowhere to go. So we did find a little trailer, but the people renting it were charging way too much. Everything was high. And my employer had cut the pay at the job I was. It was like, hey, keep the job, but you keep the job, but I'm going to cut your pay. I'm doing this to everybody. I decided to stay rather than try to look for new work. And so it made things really hard. And so we signed up for Angel Food, I think was what it was called. And I remember because me and my mom were both splitting like a box or whatever every time we would get it. And so my kids were very little and they don't remember that time period. But I always tell them, I said, well, there was a time period where what y'all got for dinner for a long time was what we got out of that box.
Almost like a commodity.
Yeah, whatever we got was what was that, and we stretched it out. that was it. And they're like, I don't remember that, But it was hard. And I guess at that time I never thought about asking for help. But yeah, I hate to say it, I felt there was a little bit of shame.
And some people don't realize there is help.
Yeah, well, I do remember feeling less than. Right. I didn't feel like less than I guess I don't know. I don't know how to describe that feeling, but it was just something particular. It's not the same as feeling.
Well, all of us have a little touch of pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not prideful, but we still have pride. We're pride in who we are, or my legacy, or whatever, And when you find yourself like that, it's hard to ask for help. You might have been the one that was always doing the helping, and then you need help. And that's why we always tell people, don't be ashamed. This is what we're here for.
Yeah.
You know, we want you to feel comfortable. And most of the time, our clients are repeat clients for the food. You know, they sign up for a year. So for 1 year they come. They know, and you know, there's laughter and there's tears. I mean, we've lost some to death, and some have new babies or grandbabies, and so we share a life with these people for a year or 10 years. I mean, it's just, you know, it just depends on the cycle that they're in, but they all have a little bit of shame.
Sure.
Because they're like, I can't, or a man comes in, like you were saying, and he felt like he couldn't provide for his family.
Sure. I mean, it was a terrible feeling. I mean, to really kind of be a little bit lost.
Absolutely.
And you go, man, I was doing good, and now I'm not. And it was just really literally circumstance. You're going, wow, all these things just aligned. And I mean, that sounds like such a, I guess people don't like that, a victim mentality. But I think back on that time, I'm like, well, I wasn't lazy. I was working. I was doing what I was trained to do, and trying to be a father, and, you know, do what I was supposed to do, and everything just kind of,
it was the circumstances.
Yeah, circumstances went to crap.
And that's all we're about.
That's it.
There's people that we've helped one time that we have never seen again.
Yeah.
You know, and really that's what Care Help was created for. Just for those emergency situations, and it's just kind of evolved through the years.
Yeah. God, this has been a real eye-opener for me, and I feel like I know so much more, and now I feel, honestly, a little bit armed now for when I do encounter
Absolutely.
people.
Just give us a call.
Yeah.
If we don't do it, we can help find who does do it.
Yeah, I feel, again, sort of ashamed and foolish for not having known as much as I do right now. I mean, I think I should have made the effort, I feel like, to have known this. So for people like me who don't know and who want to either volunteer or who need assistance or really whatever, want to know more about Care Help, what's the best way to get in touch with y'all? Is it just to come over to Care Help?
Sure.
Or?
We love to give tours.
Okay.
We love to show off. So we're at 200 North Huntington.
Okay.
Here in Sulphur. Our phone number is 337-528-2273.
Okay.
We also have a website. It's care-help.org.
Okay.
And we have a Facebook page.
Okay.
Care Help of Sulphur.
Can people donate to you through the website?
Absolutely.
They can?
So through our website or our Facebook page, PayPal.
Okay, great.
You can mail those checks in to us.
Yeah.
And we also take your your used items too.
Yeah.
In gentle used condition, appliances, furniture, clothing. I say we take anything that doesn't eat or multiply.
Well, I'll tell you this, y'all do a good job online, because over the last months I've come to follow everything, your Instagram and your Facebook page, and I was even on there today, you know, just kind of get some thoughts about what I wanted to talk about, which I really had no idea what territory we'd end up in. But the way it's organized and the way y'all promote everything is very, very structured in a way that people can consume. It's not, for anybody that's never been there, Care Help's not just sort of haphazard.
Right.
I mean, everything is sectioned off and organized
really well. People are always
well.
shocked when they're like, this is a thrift store?
Yeah. Yeah.
We work really hard to make it a very nice, I mean, we probably have almost 12,000 square feet of thrift store.
Well, you know, I told you the last time I went there. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was wrong. My daughter moved into an apartment not too long ago. She was having a little trouble getting started, and so we finally found her an apartment in Lake Charles, and she didn't have a lot of stuff and a lot of money either. And we went to Care Help and got, you know, pots and pans and dishes, and
we get good stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're trying to kickstart your life, and you're especially I don't know, I think maybe there's a lot of young people that are like, I want the best of the best to start out with. I just wasn't one of those people. I was hand-me-downs and
me too.
Bumping. I still like that kind of stuff.
I'm still like that.
Yeah.
I'm still a thrifter.
I like to find something and go, ooh, this is something I can, you know. I think for a young person, that's what I would do. I'd go to Care Help and just kickstart, get chairs and couches and everything you outlined that gentleman needed, refrigerator.
That's right.
You know, start off like that.
And
really.
every day our inventory changes.
Yeah.
Every day.
Well, it sounds like y'all have donations just coming in all the time.
We really do. And we really could use the volunteers.
To sort that. Yeah. That's something that I think that I hope people will take away from this too, is that they'll pick up the phone and call. I mean, it sounds like you already have volunteers, but you need more in certain certain aspects. It's
Absolutely.
just, yeah.
Absolutely. Even if it's a work group. Because right now we are just swamped with with donations. To where it was like, okay, that's all we're doing is just swimming.
Yeah.
You know, we can't touch ground yet and really get moving anything because it's so busy coming in.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the holidays is sort of a
That's right.
big purging time.
So when people pull up, they're like, should we drop off here or not? We're like, oh, no, we'll take it because we do have slow months in donations. But right now it doesn't look like it's anytime soon, but we're thankful for it.
Well, now I know why I've had a hard time getting time for you to get over here. Now you really
Even
are.
today, I was like, man.
I thought that too. I was like,
I think I
bet
got
you.
like a couple of missed things about an electricity bill, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
They can figure it out.
Well, I'm glad you came.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, this has been a real blessing and a treat for me, and won't be the last time you hear from me either. Because I live here in town, and I have a great desire to serve. This show is part of that, but it's only one part. Sitting here and talking is good and getting the word out about things, but I also want to put a little sweat into it too.
Well, we'd love to have you.
And I love you just